Every ancient culture on Earth working completely alone came up with the same idea. Giants, beings that walked before us, beings that built things we still cannot explain, beings that fought gods and lost. That is a pattern, and I want to find out what it means. Welcome back to the Tavern, travelers. If you are new here, this is the place where we talk about mythical creatures, cryptids and urban legends. Hit subscribe if you want more of this. Hit the bell so you actually see it. Now let's talk about giants. The Norse called them the Jötnar. Most people translate that as giants, but that word does not do them justice. The Jötnar were not just oversized beings standing around waiting for Thor to show up. They were ancient, they were wild, they were connected to forces that could kill you before you even saw them coming. Ice, fire, storms, the open sea, the mountains in winter. In Norse mythology, they lived in Jotunheim, a realm beyond the edge of everything familiar, beyond the warmth, beyond the safe world. And here is the part that most people miss. Some of the gods had Jotun blood. Thor himself had giant ancestry. So they were something bigger than monsters. They were the thing that existed before order arrived, the chaos underneath the world. And when you understand that the people who told these stories faced brutal winters, dangerous seas and mountains that could swallow entire communities, the Jötnar start to make complete sense. They were a way of giving a face to things that had no face. Greek mythology gave us one of the most recognizable giant figures in all of human history, the Cyclops. One eye, enormous strength, terrifying and mostly alone. In Homer's Odyssey, Polyphemus is isolated. He lives alone in a cave. He stands apart from gods and men. He is something else entirely. But here is the question that always got to me. Where did the one eye come from? There is a theory I find genuinely hard to dismiss. In parts of the Mediterranean, ancient people found large skulls in the ground. Before science could explain them, those skulls looked strange. A large central opening where you might think a single eye had been. What those people were actually looking at were skulls from extinct dwarf elephants. The opening in the center was where the trunk attached. But nobody knew that. Nobody had a word for elephant skull yet. So they explained what they saw. A huge skull, one hole where the face should be. Something enormous had once lived there. And from that a giant was born. There is a line in the book of Genesis that has confused people for thousands of years. It mentions the Nephilim, giants, mighty warriors, beings from a time before history was fully recorded. The exact meaning is still debated. Scholars do not agree. I think that uncertainty is part of why they are so fascinating. The Nephilim feel like a memory of something older, something that existed in the world before the story we know began. That feeling appears in giant traditions everywhere. The idea that we came after them, that the ruins were already standing, the bones were already buried, the world we inherited already had secrets inside it. Giants gave ancient people a way to say something was here before us, and we do not fully understand what it was. For island communities in early Ireland, the sea was everything. It fed you, it connected you to the outside world. It also drowned your fishermen, destroyed your boats, brought raiders from places you had never seen, and arrived without warning as storm and famine and death. Irish mythology turned all of that into a race of beings called the Fomorians. They were ancient, they came from the sea and the dark places. They brought chaos, blight, and destruction. In some stories they were monstrous, in others they were simply enormous raiders that nothing could stop. What strikes me about the Fomorians is how honest they are. Instead of saying we are afraid of the sea and we do not know why things go wrong, the storytellers created a force you could name, a force you could track, a force that, at least in the story, could eventually be fought. That is a very human thing to do. You cannot punch a storm, but you can tell a story where someone does. When European explorers reached the southern tip of South America in the 1500s, stories started coming back to Europe about something extraordinary. Enormous people, giants at the edge of the world. These accounts spread for centuries. They were repeated, exaggerated, passed between sailors and writers and courts. The giants of Patagonia became one of the most famous travel legends of the age of exploration. Later, of course, the truth came out. The people those explorers encountered were taller than many Europeans had expected. The landscape was extreme and disorienting. The language was unfamiliar. The distances were vast. And by the time the story made it home, it had grown into something much bigger than what actually happened. But I do not think those explorers were lying. I think they were doing something that humans have always done. When you enter an unknown place and you feel afraid, everything seems larger. The land feels larger, the people feel larger, the danger feels larger. And the story you tell when you get home is always a little bigger than the one you actually lived. So I want to step back here for a second, because if you look at these 5 traditions, Norse, Greek, Biblical, Irish and early colonial, you start to see something. Giants keep appearing in the exact same situations. Cultures trying to explain old ruins they did not build. Bones in the ground they could not identify, natural forces that felt personal, like something was choosing to destroy them, entering unfamiliar places and feeling small. Here's my theory. Giants are not primarily about size, giants are about perspective. When the world feels bigger than you, when a mountain looms over you, when a storm wipes out your harvest, when you stand in front of a stone monument that nobody remembers building, you need a framework for that feeling. Giants gave people that framework. And here is what I keep coming back to. The same pattern appears in cultures that had no contact with each other, no shared mythology, no ships trading stories, and they still arrived at the same answer. That tells me something is underneath all of these stories. What do you think it is? I am genuinely curious. Leave it in the comments. We are going to keep going in a second, but if you are enjoying this deep dive, this is a good moment to hit the like button if you have not already. It really does help the channel. Okay, back to giants. Here is something worth sitting with. Almost every ancient culture lived near things they could not explain. Stone walls that seemed too large, monuments with no name attached, roads built by people whose history had been completely lost. And the question was always the same. Who built this? When you have no archaeology, no written records, no science of ancient engineering, the only honest answer is someone stronger than us. Giants became the missing builders of lost history. And when I stand in front of some of these structures today, even knowing what I know, part of me understands why people went there. Before paleontology, people still found things in the ground. Massive bones, enormous teeth, skulls with features unlike anything they had ever seen alive. Today we know those belonged to mammoths, mastodons, giant elk, cave bears. Creatures that had been gone for thousands of years before anyone was around to name them. But imagine pulling one of those bones out of the ground with no reference point, no museum textbook or word for mammoth. Just a bone larger than any human bone you had ever seen, and a story in your culture about beings who are larger than human. Those people were being rational. They saw real evidence and they explained it using the best framework they had. That is actually good thinking. It was just missing one piece of information. Maybe ancient people did not believe every giant story in a way we might take a news report at face value. Maybe some did, maybe others understood them as something closer to a symbol, a way of expressing something true in the shape of a story. But underneath all of it is the same real experience. The world is enormous, history is deeper than any one person can hold, nature does not care about you. And sometimes you stand in front of something, a mountain, a ruin, a bone in the ground, and you feel genuinely completely small. Giants were the answer ancient people gave to that feeling, and I think we still reach for that answer. We just call it something different now. So here is the question I want to leave you with. If every culture on Earth invented giants independently, what does that actually say about us? Is this about the world being big, or is it about us needing the world to have been witnessed by something? Drop your answer below. I read every comment on videos like this one. If you want to go further down this road, I have got more videos waiting for you right here. Subscribe if you have not, and I will see you in the next one.